she told me to delete evidence, and Brian Friedman's like, I'm going to show this to the judge one day, and it's going to absolutely annihilate.
Could finally make Blake either come to the bargaining table or maybe even get an appeal or this thrown.
When Justin Baldoni let the crucial deadline to revise his claims pass, most believed he was backing down. But sources close to the case hint that it's actually a daring legal maneuver, one that could spell major trouble for Blake Lively in the courtroom. Could Baldoni have just made his most strategic move yet?
Federal judges are appointed by presidents and approved by the Senate. These are very powerful people, and I think every federal judge, however hundreds there are in the country, at some point have some type of portfolio that is invested in some Fortune 500 company. I think there has to be like a more direct line of connection, more than just I happen to invest in these large companies, because I think all judges at that level do. With regards to what Friedman and Baldoni may have, I think that if there's evidence that Blake has communicated to others to destroy evidence, the judge will absolutely punish her, and that would be so devastating that she could just lose her case on emotion. What's called it's called terminating sanctions or spoliation of evidence sanctions. It would be absolutely devastating to her, and it would also subject her potentially to later, which is the only thing I can think of based on this statement by Brian Friedman, that they think they can do a well enough job at defending their case that after they win, if they win, and if they do it well, they can come back and file a malicious prosecution claim, which is the only thing I could think of, other than that's really the only thing I could think of that they could actually come back and do later, after maybe, they have evidence from Taylor that she told me to delete evidence, and Brian Friedman's like, I'm going to show this to the judge one day, and it's going to absolutely annihilate. The judge will go hard on her, if that's the case.
Blake Lively's camp was quick to revel in victory after Justin Baldoni's defamation suit was dismissed with prejudice. On paper, it looked like a definitive win, case dismissed. Issue resolved, time to move on. But not so fast. That with prejudice phrase means Baldoni can't refile those exact claims, sure, but it doesn't mean he's done. In fact, one major allegation still hangs in the air. It's not the kind that quietly disappears. So why is everyone acting like this is the finale, when it might only be the opening scene? Here's where it gets complicated. While Baldoni opted not to rework his claims related to financial and relational damage, legal insiders suggest that wasn't a defeat, it was a calculated decision. Attorney Ron Zambrano explained that this move signals a deeper, more strategic shift, possibly setting up a long-term play. Instead of pouring energy into revising dismissed allegations, Baldoni may be positioning himself for something far more impactful. If his legal team pivots straight to discovery, it could ignite a very different kind of confrontation. One Lively's team may not be prepared for, and the charge Baldoni left on the table. It's no minor point, it strikes directly at how Lively's alleged actions may have derailed his career and professional relationships. This isn't a simple war of words. This is about phone calls never returned, partnerships that mysteriously dried up, and deals that never made it to the table. Legal observers see this as a live wire, silent for now, but capable of sparking at any moment, especially as discovery unfolds. Sure, Lively may have dodged one legal bullet, but the next phase could bring far greater risk. Anything tying her to Baldoni's career fallout, that so-called win could rapidly unravel into a serious liability. There's also a growing sense that not everything is stable beneath Lively's polished legal front. While her team basks in the glow of a narrow legal triumph, Baldoni's quiet shift toward discovery could carry explosive consequences. Discovery isn't just about sifting through paperwork, it's a tactical tool, opens the door to dig into messages, emails, financial trails, anything that might tell a more complicated story. If even a single piece of evidence contradicts Lively's narrative, her current momentum could dissolve. Right now, the optics look good, smiles for the cameras, confident statements, but behind the curtain, this is far from over. Baldoni's silence, it might not be a retreat, could be the setup. Looks like a delay, could be a deliberate pause to gather strength before a decisive strike. From the outside, Lively's position appears solid. But when the lens zooms in and her choices face intense legal analysis, the tides could shift fast. This isn't over, it might just be The quiet before the chaos. That's the game Baldoni's playing. Lively may never see the storm coming.
Can you imagine the stress they are facing right now? Because now it's all coming ahead. As I've been predicted, and I've been told by very good sources, this is going to explode so disgustingly in their faces. All these trolls out there supporting Blake on behalf of Amber, Heard, everybody else. Of course they are. They are all going to look so stupid when the truth comes. When people in Blake and Ryan's camp who have been silent and trying their damnedest for this to go away, when their statements start coming out, when more and more come out to expose the thing that we've all been saying, which all the streamers, all the outlets are afraid of, Ryan and Blake, because they still wield the power. That's why this story is so important and why it's so messed up. No disrespect to Justin, who is for sure suffering, and I support because he's being wronged, but this is bigger than Justin. This is bigger. This is about abuse of power in Hollywood. Just as we're learning in the Diddy trial, which we're covering in great detail, and I hope you'll join those tips. Spread the word in this video. I am in awe of this team. They are not backing down. They are all declaring we are nobody's dragon. And guess what? You can too, because guys, the reason I'm promoting all this merch is so we can fund our documentary, which is deep in post-production. We have spoken to crew. I was just in New Jersey speaking to crew from the film It Ends With Us. That's why I'm so passionate, even more so about this topic, because the insight I've been gathering that we're putting into this doc, to tell the truth, it is mind-boggling. I don't know what Blake and Ryan were thinking. No one on that set.
Justin Baldoni pulling back from his defamation. Lawsuit might seem like waving the white flag, but legal experts say it's a calculated shift, not a retreat. Instead of dragging out arguments over tossed claims, his legal team is putting all their energy into the discovery phase. And if you think discovery is just boring legal paperwork, think again. This phase is where secret surface patterns emerge, and buried details can suddenly become legal weapons. It's not about who files the flashiest motions. It's about finding what someone wanted to stay hidden. Here's why this move is both clever and potentially devastating. By not wasting time or money trying to salvage dismissed allegations, Baldoni's team can now dig into every corner of Blake Lively's world professionally and possibly personally. They'll be demanding documents, calling depositions, and firing off pointed questions. This puts Lively in a vulnerable spot. One overlooked message, one questionable deletion, and she could suddenly be facing far more than just legal headaches. For someone in the spotlight like Lively, reputation damage could be worse than courtroom fallout. If Lively thought the dismissal meant smooth sailing, she might want to brace herself. Attorney Ron Zambrano pointed out that the right piece of evidence, however, small, can shift everything. It doesn't have to be a bombshell. Even a slightly off-key email or inconsistent timeline could spiral into major trouble. And if there's any suggestion that she or someone on her team tried to hide or destroy relevant files, that's where things get serious. Penalties for tampering with evidence are no joke. Discovery violations could flip the case completely in Baldoni's favor. But here's where things get even more unpredictable. There's buzz that Taylor Swift could somehow be connected. Yes, really. Lively and Swift are famously close, and if any of their communication surfaces in this case, even indirectly backing Baldoni's version of events, it could create an uproar. One out-of-context message or vague hint of involvement could go viral in minutes and crush Lively's public image. Legal insiders suggest this kind of evidence could act like a wild card, throwing the entire case off its current track. Now, imagine this. What if Baldoni's team already has that kind of material? What if they're sitting on a critical piece of evidence, waiting for the perfect moment to drop it? In high-stakes legal battles like this, timing is everything. Letting Lively believe she's in control, only to hit her with something damning at just the right time, could be a game-ender. The silence from Baldoni's side might be strategy, not surrender. So was his silence a sign of retreat? Not likely. Baldoni seems to be conserving energy for a precision strike. With Discovery now in motion and the pressure slowly shifting toward Lively, it's clear this legal fight is far from over. The most explosive moment might not have happened yet. And when it does, it could change everything.
You know, Baldoni's attorneys, Friedman is not, he's very smart and tactically savvy. And this was a tactical decision to not amend the complaint, which the judge told him how to fix it and come back and have a shot. And they decided not to do it. And the decision not to follow, basically these underlying hints of like, hey, if you really want to keep this claim, this is how you fix it. There's one of two decisions that were made. One, they didn't have the facts to satisfy what the judge wanted to keep those possible remaining claims. Or two, the other possible thing is that they're just like, listen, we're winning the PR war. People are upset about this. Let's just stop complaining, worrying about the pleadings, and let's just get into discovery. And let's really get into this case and make our blows that way instead of delaying this because the judge, did something we didn't expect. And the only other third thing, and you keep bringing up appeal, is that there's a chance, although these are very rarely granted, that they could try to do what's called a writ, which is, go to the appeal before you're kind of supposed to. But I think that would be a waste of time. But it's a really interesting tactical decision not to at least try, because the judge kind of told them this is what's missing. And if you have this, chances are I won't kick these two out. And they decided not to do that, which means either they don't have it or they decided, let's just get into discovery. Let's start really making real pain, which is getting into, tell Blake that she has to be deposed and, depose everybody around her, get that kind of pain, because people don't like that. And that may encourage other things to happen that Baldoni and Friedman decided they do want at the end versus try to resuscitate their complaint.
Well, let's get into that because I'm glad you brought it there because exactly. Okay, so now we got Blake's deposition, which was supposed to be yesterday, but it sounds like it may have been moved. Still trying to find that out, confirm that. But what is that enough for her to want to settle? Is a settlement now the next key, you think, Chris? Is that what you think Brian's maybe doing now that Taylor Swift's texts are relevant? Is that going to be a scare tactic that maybe is a win enough that Justin's team think, you know what, we're going to get her here? Or is there a version of this where Blake, now that she has the control, it's her case only, couldn't she just pull the rug and say, you know what, out of respect of all these people who are being dragged in needlessly, I'm withdrawing to save face? And wouldn't that just end all of this without him getting the chance to even defend himself in court? What are the next steps that are actually going to benefit Justin?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we were looking at this earlier, I assume both sides were looking for an off-ramp here to, get out of this with dignity and both claim victory. But with this ruling, there's a component that goes along with it, which is a mandatory fee shifting. So all of her reasonable attorney's fees that she incurred in resisting the complaint that Justin and Wayfair brought against her and the others, the court has to order Justin and Wayfair to reimburse her for all those attorney's fees under Civil Code Section 47.1. That is going to be a huge amount of money, and I can't imagine she's going to walk away from that. So that just made it so much more difficult for just some settlement to happen without him potentially reaching into his pocket and pay. Yes, and I agree totally with Ron that maybe this is going to just be a discovery war and go get this information and publicize it and embarrass her. And but the problem is that she can just show up for that depot and be uncooperative. Eventually, she will be forced to answer the questions and could be penalized for not cooperating, but she could delay it. So I think it's very difficult to get a walk away unless there is something out there that is going to be so embarrassing to her that it's more important to her ego to drop this case than to pursue it. And you got to remember who we're dealing with. I mean, this is the person who set him up, at least it looks like, set him up with these claims, went after him very aggressively, and then for all of a sudden, if that's truly who she is, for her to change her stripes and saying, oh, I'm going to be a good person and do the right thing, and we may be asking for too much.
So if she drops the case, then who has to pay for it?
Well, right now, I'm sorry. Go. The next step is he's going to have to pay her for the attorney's fees that she.
Right, but so then I'll go to you, Ron. Why wouldn't she just drop it then at this point and play like I said? Well, too many friends are getting involved. It's getting too ugly. I want to stand up for myself, but it's too much. Couldn't she play that card and then suddenly she wins it all?
Justin Baldoni pulling back from his defamation. Lawsuit might seem like waving the white flag, but legal experts say it's a calculated shift, not a retreat. Instead of dragging out arguments over tossed claims, His legal team is putting all their energy into the discovery phase. And if you think discovery is just boring legal paperwork, think again. This phase is where secrets surface, patterns emerge, and buried details can suddenly become legal weapons. It's not about who files the flashiest motions. It's about finding what someone wanted to stay hidden. Here's why this move is both clever and potentially devastating. By not wasting time or money trying to salvage dismissed allegations, Baldoni's team can now dig into every corner of Blake Lively's world professionally and possibly personally. They'll be demanding documents, calling depositions, and firing off pointed questions. This puts Lively in a vulnerable spot. One overlooked message, one questionable deletion, and she could suddenly be facing far more than just legal headaches. For someone in the spotlight like Lively, reputation damage could be worse than courtroom fallout. If Lively thought the dismissal meant smooth sailing, she might want to brace herself. Attorney Ron Zambrano pointed out that the right piece of evidence, however, small, can shift everything. It doesn't have to be a bombshell. Even a slightly off-key email or inconsistent timeline could spiral into major trouble. And if there's any suggestion that she or someone on her team tried to hide or destroy relevant files, that's where things get serious. Penalties for tampering with evidence are no joke. Discovery violations could flip the case completely in Baldoni's favor. But here's where things get even more unpredictable. There's buzz that Taylor Swift could somehow be connected. Yes, really. Lively and Swift are famously close, and if any of their communication surfaces in this case, even indirectly backing Baldoni's version of events, it could create an uproar. One out-of-context message or vague hint of involvement could go viral in minutes and crush Lively's public image. Legal insiders suggest this kind of evidence could act like a wild card, throwing the entire case off its current track. Now, imagine this. What if Baldoni's team already has that kind of material? What if they're sitting on a critical piece of evidence, waiting for the perfect moment to drop it? In high-stakes legal battles like this, timing is everything. Letting Lively believe she's in control, only to hit her with something damning at just the right time, could be a game-ender. The silence from Baldoni's side might be strategy, not surrender. So was his silence a sign of retreat? Not likely. Baldoni seems to be conserving energy for a precision strike. With discovery now in motion and the pressure slowly shifting toward Lively, it's clear this legal fight is far from over. The most explosive moment might not have happened yet. And when it does, it could change everything.
What Chris was saying, which is that's kind of not who she's been demonstrating she is. Right now, she has, for lack of a better phrase, she has kind of two victories. One, she decimated his case, and then he's like, I'm not even going to try for the rest of the case. So she's, she has higher ground in this war right now. And she has no reason for her to give up anything. So there has to be something that would give her so much potential pain for her to avoid. But right now, she can ask for attorney's fees for what she has won so far, and there's no claims that she's defending. So I just don't see her doing that, like Chris said.
So there's likely then, if we go through the way it's been going, probably what are the likelihoods you think Friedman's holding on to something? There's been allusions that, Blake asked Taylor to delete her texts. If they could get that proof for some other big thing, could that be the joker, if you will, that could finally make Blake either come to the bargaining table or maybe even get an appeal or this thrown out? There's also been all this reports of Judge Lyman. While we all don't think he's doing anything shady, he has a lot of investments in the same Disney and corporations that are involved in this. Doesn't that look a little shady? What do you think, Chris?
Blake Lively may be celebrating what looks like a courtroom win. But what's coming next in the discovery phase could completely flip the script. Legal analysts are already flagging the dangers ahead, warning that this phase of the case might be far more treacherous than she's prepared for. For those unfamiliar, discovery is when attorneys dig through emails, financial documents, and private conversations to uncover the kind of buried information no celebrity wants made public. And for someone like Lively, whose public brand depends on being polished and pristine, the risks couldn't be more serious. Here's where things could spiral. If Justin Baldoni's legal team can prove that Lively deleted evidence or worse, directed someone else to do it, the consequences could be severe. Legal heavyweight Ron Zambrano made it clear that kind of misconduct could lead to what's known as terminating sanctions or penalties for spoiling evidence. Wreck her entire case. And it doesn't stop there. The court finds she tampered with records or interfered with the evidence. She could be hit with hefty fines or lose major decisions that favor Baldoni. And even if the case stays in court, the fallout could easily spill into the public. This isn't just about legal liability, it's about perception. Lively's clean-cut image is part of her brand, and if that begins to unravel, the backlash could be brutal. Think about what happens in other celebrity cases during discovery. It's not just about facts, it's about optics. Baldoni's team doesn't just want to win the case, they want to control the story. Single awkward deposition or private message that makes it into court records could spark a media storm. Zambrano even mentioned that Lively might be forced to reassess her legal game plan if any embarrassing or incriminating evidence turns up. In the world of celebrity litigation, maintaining control of the narrative is half the battle. If a poorly worded email or a questionable DM gets exposed, Lively's entire image could be called into question. But just in court, but in public opinion. And then there's the looming threat of leaks. While discovery is supposed to be confidential, we all know that leaks in high-profile cases are almost inevitable. One juicy detail released to the tabloids or plastered on social media could launch a PR disaster too big to contain. No matter how good her legal team is, there's no easy way to manage that kind of public fallout. Things get even trickier if Taylor Swift ends up connected to this. Rumors are swirling that messages between Swift and Lively might surface in discovery. If Baldoni's team finds anything suggesting deleted texts or attempts to cover things up, the consequences could go far beyond legal penalties. They could destroy reputations. And once the public gets wind of it, there's no walking it back. Blake Lively might look invincible for now, but discovery is a legal minefield, and the wrong step could set off an explosion. Attorneys may be confident, but what they uncover next could shift everything. The biggest threat to Lively may not be what happens in the courtroom, it could be the unraveling of the image she's spent years perfecting, asked ChatGPT.
And to any of that, I think that if you just look at the law, it's very difficult to sue somebody for making false statements or allegedly false statements in a complaint of this nature. There are strong legal protections for it, and dismissal is what's supposed to occur unless he can establish that she did so with malice. And so this should have been obvious to Justin's legal team that this would be the most likely outcome of the case when you sue for this. And so to blame the judge for doing what, again, he's kind of commanded to do under the law is just kind of wrong-headed. And you got to just look at Brian Friedman and Justin and Wayfair. Like, these laws existed, okay? She didn't write these or invent these, or these aren't hidden. These are well-known and extraordinarily difficult to get around. We had talked before about Depp versus Heard. Had Johnny Depp filed in California, that case would have been dismissed under the California anti-SLAPP law, and he would have been ordered to pay her attorney's fees. There would never have been a jury trial, never have been a verdict against her. He only succeeded because Virginia did not have such a law at the moment that he sued, and he was able to connect it up through the Washington Post op-ed. So this is well known in the community.
I want to get your response to that, but before, just the other question, do you think a Joker card, Chris, could be something they're holding on to that could change this?
Well, it's not going to make an appeal. The appeal is on the legal issue, so a fact is really not going to change that. But I think if there is some devastatingly, embarrassing information out there, then that might get her to tap out. We saw a little bit about that when she was going to have to release her therapy notes, and she didn't want to do that, and she let a big part of her claim, the emotional distress part, is gone. And so we've already seen some evidence that she might do that depending on what he can source.
What do you think, Ron? Do you agree? Do you think there could be any question as to whether the judge had some connections that maybe you should have disclosed? And do you think there's a Joker card that could change the trajectory, or do you think this is looking like a...
ChatGPT said, What if Justin Baldoni isn't just sitting back to catch Blake? Next misstep. What if he's patiently holding on to something explosive? A piece of evidence so damaging it could leave her no room to maneuver. Legal analysts are increasingly suggesting Baldoni might be waiting to drop a joker card. The kind of last-minute revelation that could turn the entire case upside down. Attorney Ron Zambrano weighed in, saying that if this kind of evidence exists, it wouldn't just shift the case, it could completely redefine it. Now imagine this. Actual concrete proof that Blake Lively was behind efforts to suppress or destroy vital evidence. Sounds dramatic. Maybe far-fetched, but it's far from impossible. Zambrano noted that if Baldoni's legal team can uncover any communication showing Lively coordinating with others to eliminate key data, the consequences would be fast and unforgiving. Judges don't take kindly to intentional cover-ups, and any credible claim of evidence tampering could lead to harsh penalties, possibly enough to wipe out her standing in court. The stakes wouldn't stop in the courtroom either. Lively's polished public image, built carefully over years, could unravel in a matter of days. Her legal troubles would become secondary to the tidal wave of public backlash. And then comes the twist nobody saw coming: Taylor Swift. While her name initially seems far removed from the case, legal observers have started speculating about her potential involvement. Could texts between Lively and Swift actually become relevant? The buzz says yes. If even the tiniest trace of deleted, hidden, or manipulated information surfaces in their communication, the situation could escalate dramatically. According to legal experts, that kind of discovery could amplify Baldoni's claims and flip the court of public opinion against Lively. Swift's inclusion, even peripherally, would supercharge media interest and magnify every detail of the scandal. And if those texts connect back to any missing documents or contradictions in testimony, it's game over. We're not just talking about embarrassment. Evidence destruction, if proven, could result in serious legal consequences. As Zambrano explained, it opens the door to terminating sanctions or even spoilage. Sanctions essentially giving Baldoni a victory without a trial. And a win like that wouldn't just clear his name. It could empower him to file a malicious prosecution case against Lively, taking this feud far beyond where it began. This sort of pivotal moment isn't unprecedented. Celebrity lawsuits have been flipped overnight when the right document or message lands at the wrong time. From unexpected email leaks to contradictory messages, the damage can be swift and irreversible. The real question now isn't if Baldoni's team might uncover such evidence, it's whether they already have it. They're simply waiting for the most destructive moment to reveal it. Lively's legal camp may feel secure right now, but if that secret card is played, their confidence could vanish in an instant. Court victory may not mean much if the foundation beneath it crumbles just as quickly. In high-stakes battles like this, one shocking piece of evidence can bring the whole thing down. Blake Lively's recent courtroom success may look like a major victory, but beneath the surface, the legal drama is only intensifying. With Justin Baldoni's legal team now laser-focused on the discovery phase, this battle is poised to enter its most explosive chapter yet. Discovery isn't just a procedural step. It's where real damage is done, where stories unravel, secrets get exposed, and reputations face their harshest tests. Lively's camp might want to hit pause on the celebration. Baldoni's current approach isn't as simple as it appears. When the court tossed out his defamation claims, many assumed it was a clear loss. But according to legal insiders, his decision not to revise or refile those claims was deliberate. Attorney Ron Zambrano suggests this wasn't surrender, it was strategy. By stepping aside from immediate litigation, Baldoni's team has rechanneled its energy into uncovering evidence that could be far more devastating than a defamation ruling ever would have been. It's a higher-risk, higher-reward maneuver, and it might just change everything. One potential outcome? Pressuring Lively into settlement by exposing her most guarded vulnerabilities. Attorney Christopher Melcher notes that discovery has a way of surfacing private details, embarrassing, controversial, or worse, that could drive a celebrity like Lively to the negotiating table fast. And for someone as image-conscious as she is, protecting her brand could outweigh the desire to fight this in court. Her reputation is her currency, and Baldoni's legal team knows it. There's also the possibility of a future appeal. While legal expert Melcher acknowledges that overturning defamation dismissals in California is extremely difficult due to strong free speech protections, he doesn't count it out. If Baldoni's attorneys uncover powerful new material during discovery, they could use it as leverage to reopen claims, reignite pressure, or force an off-the-record deal before things spiral further. It's important to remember that legal warfare isn't confined to the courtroom. It's also waged through influence, perception, and strategic leaks. Lively may have the law on her side for now, but if damaging information makes its way into the public domain, be it financial inconsistencies, hidden messages, or sensitive communications, she'll be battling on a second, it's potentially more dangerous front: public opinion. And that's where Baldoni's tactics shine. By shifting his focus to narrative shaping rather than just legal victories, he's framing this conflict as one about integrity, truth, and accountability. If his team can expose even one piece of evidence that contradicts Lively's version of events, it could erode the public's trust in her image. This kind of fallout doesn't require a courtroom whinge, just the right detail in the right hands. The X factor in all this: momentum. If Baldoni's side builds enough of it through damning discovery, Lively might be forced to pivot from defending herself legally to saving face in the media. And with her name tied to countless endorsements, deals, and public goodwill, the stakes extend far beyond a legal brief. This is reputation warfare, and it's only getting started. Lively may have walked away from round one with a favorable ruling, but as the case moves deeper into discovery, her footing looks less certain. What once appeared to be a clean win is now laced with risk, especially as Baldoni's team sharpens its focus on vulnerabilities that lie outside traditional legal arguments. Hollywood legal. Showdowns aren't just about verdicts, they're about control. And in this game, discovery is the arena where control can be lost or seized in an instant. With every document, deposition, and digital trail, the balance can shift. The quiet moves Baldoni's team is making now may soon echo loudly through the industry. So while the dust settles from this latest ruling, the real showdown is only just beginning. And in Hollywood, the truth has a way of breaking through no matter how well it's hidden.